Hi there. Today we're going to do a quick demo of Callfire and how to change some of the IVR, interactive voice response systems. So the way that we're going to do this is first going through the Callfire system. I actually had already made some changes, but I'll explain what the changes were because I made the changes prior to realizing I should probably record them. So after going to the Callfire site, clicking login, you would use your login credentials. In this case, we're using LastPass. We come into this, our main dashboard. Then we click on phone numbers. The lead capture phone number that we have is 714-831-1800. These other two will drop off pretty soon, but for right now, this is the only one we're using with Callfire. Afterwards, this one we can see the number of calls that have come in. We're going to go to the very last one, which is IVR XML. So IVR is interactive voice response. XML is just the coding that they use. What you just saw flash there was the coding, and we can actually see the coding by going here, XML editor. So this is the actual code that it is. We minimize using this, even though this is what Callfire. If we were ever were to do help, that's how they would do it. So if we go on to here, which is a more visual representation, let's zoom in here. We'll see how the IVR is set up. So the first part about the IVR is that it is menu, and you would play an introduction. Introduction would be, thank you for calling the results real estate group. This actually is going to be changed. We changed it to the results home group. At Keller Williams Realty, your Belinda. Press 1 for properties for lease, press 2 for properties for sale. This is named intro. So whenever we refer back to this, this will go back to intro, this name right here. And 1 is for properties for lease, 2 is for properties for sale. Pretty clear there. Yeah. So intro here. The reason why I bring that up is because prior to going to menu for lease, we first will go to key press timeout. Key press timeout means that if they don't respond in the 1200 milliseconds, 12,000 milliseconds, which is equal to 12 seconds, then it would just hang up. And if they press something that isn't 1 or 2, which is key press default, then there will be a text that says this is not a valid entry, and then it will go back to the intro here. So that's why it's important to name it, because when you have a go-to, they have to have a name here. And this is one reason why the names must be unique, and you must not have multiple of the name, because otherwise it doesn't know where to direct it to, where to call it to, since this is just the call flow logic. So this is the main initial menu. First, it funnels it between a for lease or for sale. And here's some of the logic for the first initial panel. We want to save changes often, because the way that this is done, it has coding. And the way that the coding is done, if you don't save changes often, sometimes it'll have some type of error that you don't know what it is, and it won't let you save the rest of the results because the error makes the whole call not function. Therefore, save often. So this is the main menu. I think this will be part 1 of the series because it may be too complicated just to have one long old thing to have a video about. So I'm going to go through the overview, and then I'm going to program the specific actual menu items afterwards. So right now we're going to, again, main menu, main initial. That's how this is named. Menu is named because it originally has a menu. Yeah, press menu. If you clicked on press menu, it'll generate a menu and a key press node. So I just separated them out, and you can actually move this in or move this out. So this one can be moved left 1 layer. This one can be moved left 1 layer. It can also be moved right 1 layer. So basically this shows how this is nestled. Since this is the initial one, this has all of these options, but this does not have any options here, because the options here are connected to this menu. Okay, moving on. So there's a menu here, initial, and then when you press 1, it'll direct it to main lease 1. Key press 1, main lease 1. When you press that button, it goes to menu for lease. Menu for lease is here. So play text to speech, properties for lease. Thank you. If you know your extension, you may dial it at any time. If the property you are calling about is not listed, it is not currently available for lease. Again, we always use female to Beth because I like Beth better than Mary, and I don't want to actually record language. It's much easier just to type it out. The properties we have available right now are this property, and I just added these 2 properties. I'll go into this in more detail in a little bit. Key press default, the same kind of a concept. It'll be if they don't press something, if they press a extension that's not part of the whole extension block, then it just plays this default. It'll say this is not a valid entry, and it'll bring you back here. Pretty simple. Did want to mention something as well, which was that you also want to hit max digits for this, because sometimes if you want extensions with 3, 4, 5 digits, you want to type in 3, 4, 5 digits. Otherwise, if you only have 2 digits and you have 5 digits, max digits, then it'll be waiting for more digits. So in this case, we don't want to go more than 99. That's enough for our purposes. Key press timeout, go to main menu. So if the key press timeout, then it will say main menu, and then it will go main initial. So that means it'll go from this menu, which is the for lease menu, back to main menu. Main menu, main initial. Which one is main menu? Main initial. So it does go back to main initial, which is right here. See how this matches right here. Okay. Next one would be key press 21, which would be the actual extension. This one is off market. That's why it has some of these wording. Let me see here. This is 21, which is which one? 21, it is off. So that means that we can actually just delete this. Click on it, press and hold shift, select other ones, and then just right click. We can add a node or delete a node or copy the node or paste the node. I would not recommend copying because it creates formatting and wording problems. It's much better just to copy from past nodes. And I'll go over that in a second. So since 21 is no longer available, we delete it. Yes, we delete it and its children. So the key press 21 will be Park Vista, which is available. This one, which is available. We don't want to reuse extensions, but that's something we'll get into later on. The logic is it'll stash it. So first off, stash would be stash extension 22. So that's the name of the node. The variable name is extension 22. The value is Park Vista 2849. So basically, how do I explain this? I don't think I can explain this. So let me just see if I can show you. This is I believe this report will be sufficient. Yeah. So typically when we have an actual report, it'll have the numbers that have called in and the time that they called in and how long they spoke for. And it'll also have at the very, very end, it'll have these extensions. Notice that extension 20, this was when we had 24 was before we actually formalized our extension names. But our extension column names, EXT23, EXT25, EXT27. And if there are recordings, there are a link to where the recordings are hosted. But whenever somebody calls in, we do a stash so that it stashes that name under that extension. It doesn't need to be that sophisticated. Technically, it can just have the extension name, for instance, just be Clover, and for what they stash to be X. But I want it to be very, very clear. I don't want a bunch of X's here. Just looking down on this line. So extension 25, Clover. Okay? Clover is the name of the property. If we compare that with what we're doing here, extension 22, Park Vista 2849. So the variable name would be here, and the value will be here. So this will be the actual value of that cell. So this is when we export our results, which I'll show a little bit later as well. After they press 22, it's stashed so that it's recorded, and then it plays a message. It says your call is being transferred. Afterwards, we have a leasing specialist that receives the call. So make sure that this is always named, and make sure even if it's multiple people, I'm sorry, if it's the same person being forwarded from multiple numbers, to have the name here be separated. This is kind of important because otherwise this will create an error. So Gonzalo G3, first name, first letter of last name, and then a number. Create a unique name for this tag, as you see here, because otherwise it'll cause an error. This will be his cell phone number. We always enable advanced features. Hold feature would just be classical, just because I like classical music. And timeout will be 20 seconds, which means that it'll ring for 20 seconds. Continue after transfer, true. This is very important for this to be turned on, because when this is true, it means that if Gonzalo does not pick up, this gets rerouted back to our system, so it'll leave a voicemail onto our system, Callfire system, rather than Gonzalo's cell phone. So this is very important. Next one is whisper text to speech. This is just to make it easier for Gonzalo, who may be in the field, and whenever he picks up the phone, it'll say for lease Park Vista connected. So then it just tells him that which property is being called in about. So he has kind of an idea what it is. So I say for lease, and then Park Vista, and then it'll say, I guess it should say connecting. And whisper text to speech, and then press OK. So this is how the transfer actually occurs. Now, right after the transfer is sent out, there's a text message sent to Gonzalo. There shouldn't be missed call. I'm going to write received call from. So in case he missed that call, he'll immediately get a text message that says, by the way, quick aside, do not fill in the name. Because if you fill in a name, you have to name everything, which is extra work. And if you don't want to direct directly to this node, this text node, then it doesn't need a name. But once you put a name, you cannot remove a name. So basically, right after this, I can send a text to multiple people as well. But for right now, I just want to send a text back to Gonzalo because I don't need tracking because it's already tracked in our system through Stash. But I want Gonzalo to have tracking, so I want to send him a text message saying received a call from name, call ID alpha. This is a specific code that's in their system. If you look on the help desk, it'll give you a few other codes as well, but this is a simple one. This is the name of the person I called in according to their cell phone data. This is the caller ID, which is their phone number, and then you tell them for lease Park Vista. Pretty simple. So here's the call flow so far. You have a stash. So I know about it. It's in our Excel records. So I can pull up this Excel record anytime I'd like. And then it would tell them that your call is being transferred. And then it would actually transfer them to the agent. And then it'll text the agent in case they missed the call. It'll send this text regardless of whether they pick up or not. But just in case they missed it, it'll send them a text. And then if it's transferred and he picks up, then the system is done. But if not, if the transfer continues because he didn't pick up, which happens, then it would play this message, which is please leave a message for more details or visit our website at preferredmanager.com. That's FERRED manager.com. Notice the way that this is written. Unless it has a space, it'll always read it as one word. If it's and dot is a go with some certain things that you wanted to read out, you have to write it out like dot. And this is a standard thing to direct people to our website, but we ask them to leave a message as well. And then it records. The variable name is VM Park Vista. So I'm not entirely sure what this means, but it's okay. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that means. So basically then, that's it. And basically we can each of the key presses are self-contained and they contain basically the same thing. We just swap out what the names of the extensions are. and certain properties. This was when I was building, but I'll build it out in a separate video. Here these are just standard. Each property has its own set of things, and this is everything on a for lease menu. We actually have a for sale menu that's very, very similar as well, menu for sale. And it will have a very similar thing, but the extensions are a little bit different. In this case, we would have extensions 1 to 9. For these, we're going to have extensions 20 to 50. So we're going to cycle from 20 all the way to 50 before we start using 20 again. That should give enough time that all of the for lease properties, like it might take a few months to cycle back to the 20 properties, so that, for instance, if the 20 property was, if the 20 property here was like a Clover, for instance, by the time that we cycle back to Clover, there will not be any kind of a question as to whether that's Clover or different property, because we said, oh, Clover was leased out a long time ago. So that just avoid confusion. Okay, this is the end of the primer, basically how this whole thing works. We're going to save changes, and I'm going to make a different video as to how to actually create these key presses, because all we're going to do is copy paste the other key presses, but it's worth going through. So thank you very much, and please watch our next video.